everyone. Thanks again so much for joining us on the Drumbeat, Conversations about Childcare. My name is Aaron Merchant. I'm the Director of Policy and Programs for Early Childhood Education here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And I am thrilled to have our next guest, all the way from Iowa, Mary Jansen, Regional Director of the Childcare Resource and Referral Northeast Iowa region. Mary has worn a whole bunch of different hats in the childcare sector. And we're very excited to get her insight and expertise. And today we're really going to dig into the cost of childcare and the factors that go into that. But first, let me ask Mary, tell us a little bit more about what brought you here and your experience in childcare.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's great to be here. So I really started my childcare career in school, in high school. I worked for our local childcare provider. She owned a center, and really from there, I was encouraged from a high school teacher to continue on because she could see my passion. So I continued on in college, taught preschool during the day, and then went to receive my bachelor's degree on education. I went to classes at night. Actually, then from after that, I was a center director for that same organization, and then came to CCR&R in 2006 as a consultant, leading the quality rating system program for our region. From after 6 years of doing that job, moved into a supervisor role, and a year later became the regional director of our agency. And I've been in that position for 10 years. Most recently, I've kind of picked up what I would call a position on my nights and weekends where I consult with an architecture firm here in Cedar Falls, Iowa, for Levi Architecture. So we do childcare projects across the state. My main role, which you're going to hear me refer to it a lot today, is the pro forma and business plans that I do with communities as they're starting out and thinking of offering childcare services.
Excellent. Actually, Mary, I think what don't you know about childcare might be a shorter conversation, but no, we're so thrilled to have you here. And like I said, we want to talk about cost, the affordability for parents, and then what types of supports employers can provide their employees is a constant topic of conversation that we have. I know that I saw a report from Childcare Aware that talked about how nationally the average cost of childcare is about $10,000 a year. For parents. And then here in Washington, D.C., and I can attest to this, the cost is about double that, almost $24,000 a year for parents paying for childcare. And so I saw on social media the other day, somebody, I think they were joking, but say something to the effect of, $20,000 a year for childcare. Childcare providers must be, just driving Mercedes and swimming in cash. Mary, can you tell us if that's true? And if not, why not?
It is not true. I have never driven a Ferrari, but I think that they're really cool. I drive a Ford, but I love my Ford. But that just kind of goes, the salary has never been able to support that type of lifestyle. It's more you live out your passion, right? More people are drawn to it for your passion. When I think of a childcare budget, how I have described it to community members that are looking at asking that exact same question, I say, okay, think of it in this way. A one income household has to pay every single thing underneath that roof that needs to keep that door open, right? And that's exactly how you think of a child care center, or even a child development home. When they have one income coming in, mainly from families, child care fees that they're being paid, and those rates in that budget has to pay everything under the roof. There is not a lot of additional income coming into a child care center. And that's where we see it be a barrier for child care. So that's where we see as Target and all of our retail continue to raise their minimum wage, childcare can't, because there's not that additional income coming in. So while I agree it's so expensive, it's probably one of your top costs as a parent for your budget, it's still, think of it as that one income household paying everything under that roof. And it's tough.
And Mary, I've heard it explained, and let me know if you agree, that it seems as if we're taking childcare and trying to apply sort of a traditional business model, but to something that doesn't fit that mold, right? Like like you said, it depends on how many kids are attending in terms of that revenue stream for the childcare center or the childcare home. But then it's this really interesting puzzle where you need to have enough kids. We also need to have enough teachers. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of delicate balance, especially as it pertains to the different ages that teachers need to be aware of when they're educating these different kids?
Yeah, that is almost one of the first conversations that we have as we go into these communities. You know, as I spoke about my consultant role through Levi Architecture, when we do that pro forma, we first look at, okay, is the building, the building, how many children can fit in that building? And then that conversation is, okay, what are going to be the ages? And we always hear, we need infant care, we need infant care. But I hate to refer to children as this, but as you get, the infants, they cost a lot to house, and it's needed, it's important, and I know that. But as you get into the older ages, you have less ratio to follow as far as less adults per children because they're older, they don't need as much attention, right? Still need supervision, still need quality childcare, but we often refer to the preschool group and the school age group as our money makers. And I hate saying that about children, but it is kind of true because there's less expense for that age group. So it's really a matrix. It's a look at puzzle to say, okay, well, you need infant care. So we always recommend a community assessment. Let's see what, the community is saying that you need. But then how do we balance it out with that older age group? Because usually the other need in a community is school age. They need that before and after school care or summer care as well. So we just work really hard to figure out the matrix in that puzzle to balance that budget so that they can continue to sustain and grow the program.
And Mary, when you talk about budget balancing, can you walk us through a little bit some of the actual line items that are on a budget? Like, let's say you and I we're going to open a childcare center in a community. What are some of the first things that we know that we're going to need to cover? And then what are some of the variables?
So your top expense, honestly, will be your staffing. That's going to be your 90% of your most likely of your budget. So we're going to look at that. Number one, we always really focus in on what are you going to charge the families and what are you going to pay the staff. So the pro forma, which is one of the services that we offer, is we might take 1 to 2 meetings just to figure out that piece right there. Because it's number one, it's going to be your income, but then also your number one expense that you're paying out is your people that are working there. Then after that, it's really looking at the building. And if it's a childcare center, what is the building and is it affordable for you to house children? Sometimes you see a building and you think, oh my gosh, that'd be great for a childcare. But in the end, do you remember you need sinks in every room, you need plumbing, you need all this stuff to make it work day to day for kids. And so a lot of times, we also recommend a walkthrough with a licensed architect just to say, okay, is this really going to be feasible and meet your needs? And then beyond that, it's the day-to-day, what you need to run the program, right? Your food, you have to feed the kids, and that's a huge expense. So you have to look at that. And then after that, every other single thing that you have to pay for, your paper supplies, your office supplies, your art supplies, all of those things that will make the daily programming.
And so all of those expenses, like you said, come from that single revenue stream of tuition for the children who attend either that center or that childcare home. Have you seen, especially in the last few years, as childcare has just skyrocketed up the priority lists of mayors, governors, policymakers, the business community, have you seen ways that employers or the community at large have sort of come together to either help maybe address some of those overhead costs or have found ways to sort of creatively support the different, the different things that go into making a successful community childcare center or helping single home providers?
Yeah, that's what's really cool about that community collaboration. Is just seeing how the community does come together and support this, because it's not necessarily a one person issue either. Childcare is a community issue. So we've seen some really cool things. Like one most recent project that is in the early stages, and they haven't even broke ground on the center yet, but they're in the planning stages, is the hospital has offered to pay to provide 30 meals per day to this program. So that, and for free. And then obviously they would receive spaces, right? Guaranteed or priority on the wait list. But what a huge relief for that program that you think if 30 meals are brought in, that is a huge expense already right there that would save that budget, right? That one income that's coming in. We've also heard other things like another one is if there's a partnership between a business and a childcare, there is a lot of times often building expenses. So maybe the business would take on that building side of it. They own the building, but then the childcare is housed there and operated. So then again, that takes that out of your budget, and that's a huge relief for your budget. There's a lot of really cool pieces that I think can happen, and I believe in Iowa right now we have a grant that was released this summer, and we had applicants submit, and it was businesses that submitted an application to provide childcare. And so I think from that we're going to have so many success stories about how businesses came together. They had to partner with a childcare center, and just the success that we will see from those partnerships.
And Mary, when we see some of the exciting things happening that you just mentioned, and you're able to save on costs in other areas, have you seen that result in greater affordability for parents, but also an increase in wages for the early childhood educators? And then what are the benefits, and what does that mean when you are able to raise those hourly rates or annual salaries for those educators? How does that benefit the community? How does that benefit the kids who attend that program?
Your staff are your number one piece of, besides the children that come there daily, your staff are your number one part of the whole business, because they're caring for the kids, and so it's loving the children every single day and providing that care. But if you can grow and sustain a program, but mainly sustain that program, keep those staff by raising those wages, I think that's a huge piece of what we're seeing is, if they're raising the wage, they're retaining the staff. Otherwise, childcare, if it's a revolving door, which most are because of the low income, that only hurts the program, and that only hurts the children. And so how can we as a community come together and find resources to continue to raise the wage of childcare across the states?
That continuity and stability for the kids makes a huge difference. My youngest is almost 2, and he loves his teachers so much that it's almost a little hurtful to me as a father how comfortable he is just waving goodbye and just heading right into the center. But I'm thrilled that that's how comfortable he is and how excited he is.
You're a huge part of their life and childcare. And I still have a lot of contact with kids that they're all growing up now and graduating high school, but it's really rewarding as the teacher, though, to be that big part of their life as well.
Absolutely. Mary, if I am a president of a state or local chamber, and I am watching the Drumbeat and I'm inspired, I'm like, you know what, we got to do more in this realm of childcare. What are the first steps that I need to take, or the first people I need to reach out to learn more about, the role that the community and the business community in particular can play in, providing childcare and supporting our workforce?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that a lot. I always, number one, connect with your child care resource and referral. Every state has one. They may be titled something different, but connect with those people that are working day in and day out with child care programs across the state. And then also connect with, number one, you need someone, if you have a building in mind, you need someone that's going to help you understand the regulations in your state, but also understand, will this work out, and will this be financial feasible for you as a program, and understanding that puzzle, that matrix that we talked about. How many kids can we fit in? What are the costs? And then ultimately, Dan says it best from Levi. He says architecture. He says, what? One of the most important pieces of our work is that pro forma to help you understand your daily, yearly, and everything budget, but also that startup cost and to make those major decisions on what you'll charge, but also what you'll pay your folks that are coming in every day.
So it sounds like we already know, you and I, but also I imagine our viewers, we know what an important piece of the workforce puzzle childcare is. And so it sounds like if I'm someone who wants to learn more, we've got resource and referral agencies, talk to providers, and then learning the math, because the childcare business model and the childcare industry is really, I think, unlike any other. And it's just learning the essentials and then digging even a little bit deeper is going to be the best way to sort of see what's going to fit best for that community and for the employees in that town.
Definitely.
Mary, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. I appreciate your time and your insight, and I can't wait for our next conversation.
Yeah, thank you.